Okay, Bruce, if you want to start, again, this is being taped on YouTube for residents to watch this later if they wish. And one of the items one of our board members wanted me to encourage is that if residents have questions after this meeting, they can email them to me, Bruce, and then I'll forward them along to you.
Understood. Okay, thanks everybody for attending. This is about the SR State Route 896 Section SIP project, which is approximately 5 miles running from the southern limit of Chambers Rock Road up to the northern limit of Cobbler's Lane through London, Britain, Franklin, and New London townships. We wanted to come to you to share where we are in the design process, what's going to happen over the next, say, 18 months, and give you some information today. And we have gotten some questions asked of us, and we'll see how many of those we can get through and if there's any other questions that are out there. Currently, PENNDOT is in the midst of what we call final design. That is where we take the rough design concept that has been developed for the various sections in this project corridor and refine them to the point where contract documents can be developed and put out to the contracting community to bid on. We're anticipating that will happen, meaning the letting of the bids, which is the opening of the bids, will happen in about late 2023. Commencement of construction is anticipated for around spring of 2024. We believe it'll be about a 2-year time frame to complete the entire project. And the reason for that is not the entire 5 miles is anticipated to be under construction at the same time. There'll be portions of it that'll be worked on and then completed, moved on, and other portions worked on it, so that the whole duration ends up being 2 years. Right now, we are approximately 2 months away, a couple months away from the right-of-way acquisition process, where the representatives for PENNDOT will be meeting with each of the property owners that would be affected. Most, if not all, of the right-of-way acquisition are anticipated to be sliver takes just off of existing 896 today. So the representatives will be contacting you and then describing to you what the acquisition process is about, and then discuss with you the compensation that's anticipated for the securing of the slivers of land that are needed in order to put this project forward. One thing I wanted to indicate with regard to the construction is there are some detours that are anticipated. There will be an overall large truck detour for the whole 2 years of the construction period. They will be out of this area and sent on to the state roads to the west of here. However, there will be some local detours as the contractors will get to one area and then move to another and then move to another. Even with those detours in place, they will be put in the contract documents that from any resident or any commercial interest along 896, access to that property will be maintained at all times during construction. With that introduction, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Tom Lindsay from KCI, who's our designer, to walk us through the various proposed improvements along the corridor. Tom?
Okay, can you hear me okay, Bruce?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And I'm now sharing my screen. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Bruce. So as Bruce said, this is a 5-mile safety improvement project. The south limit is Chambers Rock Road. The north limit is Cobbler's Lane. The presentation displays that were put up on the township website and that I'm showing here are broken into 2 pieces, kind of the 2 halves of the project. So this first graphic is the southern half of the project with Chambers Rock Road on the left side, and Kemblesville with the intersection with Appleton Road is just off the right side. Overall, the majority of this project is a mill and overlay with some minor shoulder widening for minimum 4-foot shoulders. We'll also be improving the cross slopes on the roadway to meet current design criteria. And then there are 7 areas where we're doing enough work that we have to do full depth pavement construction. And as I go more in detail here along the length of the project, I'll point out where those areas are. So I'm going to zoom in here starting on the south end of the project and just hit kind of point by point as we go through to the north of what the construction features are. So starting at Chambers Rock Road, we're going to install a southbound left turn lane and also remove some vertical crest here. And I'll describe that a little further in detail here in a minute. That will be an area of full depth reconstruction for that left turn and that vertical work going just about up through South Bank Road. Continuing through London Tract and Strickersville Road, we'll be doing a small realignment of the 896 horizontal alignment to get through that intersection to improve the sight distance through the intersection. And continuing north is Mill and Overlay. This is the intersection with Flint Hill Road. So there's Nickel Park on the west side. Then continuing toward the London, Britain, and Franklin Township line here at the shopping center with the Sunoco, we'll be doing some drainage improvements north of Indiantown Road to get water off the road. That will consist of adding inlet boxes and piping along, in this location, mostly along the east side of the road. So then continuing into Franklin Township, we have a lot of work going on at Good Hope Road. The intersection with Good Hope Road, 896 will be realigned and Good Hope Road will be brought in a T intersection. And then just south of Good Hope Road, we'll be lowering the vertical crest in the roadway. And that's the detail that's on the plan with this in this location is an elevation view of the roadway. It's the profile. And the dashed line is the current roadway profile. So you can see the sharp hump vertical crest curve in the road that's just south of Good Hope Road. So we will be lowering that crest to improve sight distance in both directions and also from the intersection. We're doing this in a few locations further north on the project as well, and I'll show those. So then continuing off the edge of the sheet again, Kimblesville, the intersection with Appleton Road is just off the edge of the sheet. One thing to note coming in from the south here will be the installation of a raised center median for traffic calming purposes for traffic coming into and actually out of Kimblesville in that location. So then switching to the second display plan, and again for orientation, Kimblesville, the village, and the intersection with Appleton Road are here on the left. On the right side is the intersection with Cobbler's Lane, which is the northern limit of the project. The intersection with 841 just about here in the middle of the graphic. So in Kimblesville at the intersection with Appleton, we'll be realigning 896 and making this into a T intersection with an all-way stop control. That will be an area of full depth reconstruction. We'll also be installing textured pattern crosswalks across all 3 legs of the intersection there. Proceeding north out of Kimblesville, there will be another raised median near the school, again for traffic calming purposes in both directions. So this is Kimblelot Lane and Parsons Road. We'll be installing additional drainage north of Parsons Road, going towards Gypsy Hill Road. And then we get to the intersection with 841 and with Den Road. Now, this is another area of full depth reconstruction. It's a lot of work that's going on here. We're going to realign both 841 and 896 and construct a roundabout. Little explanation of the graphic here. The The hatched area in the middle of the roundabout is what's called a truck apron, which is a very slightly raised concrete area that allows large trucks to actually traverse the roundabout. That's not normally used by cars and smaller trucks. So it's just a little explanation of what's being shown on the graphic there. We'll also be lowering the crest curve at Den Road and removing the stop sign that's there now. And that's actually just in the southbound direction. So as shown on the profile, we're smoothing out the profile of 896. So this is along 896. You have the short vertical crest to the south of 841, the dip at 841, and then the short vertical crest to the north. We'll be lowering both of those vertical crests on either side of the intersection, raising the roundabout up to create a more smooth profile through that intersection and through the Den Road intersection. Then continuing to the north, the intersection with Scotts Glen Road, we're doing something very similar with the profile where we are lowering the sharp crests on either side of the intersection. We're raising the intersection to create a smooth profile for 896 with better visibility, better sight distance. Here we are also realigning 896 and bringing Scotts Glen in as a T to improve sight distance in that location. So then continuing north, the other piece of Den Road, the other side of Den Road, north of that intersection, there will be more drainage installed along mostly the east side of the road there. East and west in this location, I believe. Then continuing on, this is Pembroke and Walnut Glen. We have another vertical crest curve that we'll be removing just north of that intersection. We're also realigning 896 to make the horizontal curve less sharp in that location to improve sight distance. Then at the Franklin New London Township line, just south of Hess Mill Road, and I will point out at this point, our aerial photos are a little out of date. Everybody probably knows there's a fairly large housing subdivision here, here off of Millhouse Drive. But just south of that intersection, we'll be lowering another vertical crest south of Hess Mill. And then at the intersection of Hess Mill Road and Millhouse Drive, we'll be installing left turn lanes in both directions on SR 896. And then the project ends just north of Cobbler's Lane. There will be left turn lanes in both directions there as well. And that is the scope of the project. Bruce, do you have anything to add?
As I was listening to your presentation, Tom, I was taking a look at what I have listed as some of the comments that we had gotten in the past few days, most of which I think you have talked about in your presentation. There's a couple questions we got that have to do with specific properties. I won't be responding to those in this public forum. We'll send an email back through Jeff responding to those. But one question that did come up that I think is fine in a public forum question was asking if there was any improvements as part of this project up to the intersection of PA 796 with 896, and that intersection is about 3 miles away, and that's beyond the scope of this project. But I will take the information provided in the comments and provide it to the operations unit to see if it's possibly part of some other future project that might be done. So I will pass those comments along. Other than that, Tom, I think that completes it, and I guess we'd open it up for questions or comments.
Going back to Kimblelot and Parsons, that intersection, are you doing anything on the corners of either side of that?
Yeah, in what respect? We're not making major changes to the geometry of that intersection.
At the corner closest to us coming off Parsons, it's pretty hard to see up to your left.
So
I don't-
this corner here,
No, down from that,
this one here.
right? Yeah, that one there. That's
Okay.
kind of hard to see around that corner, turning to the left. I'm just mentioning it.
Would
Okay.
Tom, would the 4-foot shoulder there provide a bit more distance to be able to see to the left in the final condition versus what's there today?
It may, depending on what the shoulder is out there now, if it's a narrower shoulder than that, yes.
Good afternoon. I missed the very beginning of this conversation, so if this was asked and answered already, I apologize. But
Fair enough.
the school zone for the Campbellsville school, the current layout of what defines the school zone has always seemed a bit odd. Especially on the downwind leg. Once you've passed the school, it seems like there's an extra long stretch that is still within the school zone that has never made sense to me because you're already past the school a considerable distance. And it's a school zone where realistically there couldn't be anyone because there's houses and a parking lot. Is that going to remain the same, or will this project change that at all, especially with the addition of the mid lane structures being built?
So what you're asking is, do we envision as part of this project that sign would be located a little further back toward the school? Is that your question?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Tom, in the comments we received from the operations unit in their initial look at the signing and pavement marking plan, do you recall, was that discussed?
I don't believe that was discussed, and I'm pretty sure that we were showing those signs in their current locations. But we can look at that again and bring that up with them.
I mean, the reason I'm saying is honestly, if you're driving up or down where the school zone begins, there is no possibility of there being anyone. It's houses and a hill. So I realize that there might be a statutory thing where a school zone has to be X number of, feet or meters long from some center point. So if that is the case, then obviously that's not really flexible. But if there is some flexibility in where it is, it seemed like it would be a thing to maybe consider, especially because the other end of it, the southbound end of the school zone, ends much closer to the school somehow than the other one does. Like you just pass the school and the school zone ends. So I've never understood the logic of that.
Yeah, we can inquire about that. I see a hand raised. Caitlin?
Hi, yes. We own the property directly south of Hess Mill Road on 896. I heard you mention that the incline, the grade will be lowered. Will there be anything done to smooth out that curve? We've had, since we've lived here 9 years, 2 pretty severe accidents on our property right there.
That's at Hess Mill you're talking about?
Yes, we own the property directly south of Hess Mill Road. It's that white farmhouse you can see. It's right above where it says Vertical Crest.
Oh,
Our
this
property
one
right
right
there.
here.
Yeah, but we own all the way out to the road there. They just installed quite a few new signs for the turn, which unfortunately really ruined the view from our property. I don't really love those signs, but I was just curious what else is being done. Just smoothing out the vertical rise, is that it?
Yes. I mean, again, with kind of the typical shoulders being widened to 4 feet where necessary and correcting cross slopes to be up to current design standards. But the majority, the largest piece of work in that location is lowering that crest. Unfortunately, I don't have a profile view in that specific location, but it's kind of similar to the other ones where it's taking that sharp hump out of the road and making it flatter for better visibility.
Okay, so the 4 foot additional shoulder, will we just lose 4 feet of our property?
Well, it's not 4 foot additional shoulder, it's 4 feet total. The shoulders
Okay.
throughout this corridor vary. Sometimes they're 2 feet, 3 feet. Sometimes they do get up to 4 feet.
Okay, yeah, there's not really much shoulder. where
Right,
we
so
are,
it'll be
but-
4 feet, it'll be 4 feet total. It won't be 4 feet additional.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And Laura, you have your hand raised also?
Yes, I was just curious, can you expand on the construction of those medians that you're going to be putting in and describe a little bit more detail what they'll consist of and how wide they'll be?
Okay, width, I do not know off the top of my head. I want to say that they're a minimum of 4 feet wide. But that will basically be a mountable curb median. Here on the north side, it's a little bit smoother taper, but the idea here is to force traffic to steer around the median to slow people down, especially coming into Kemblesville. But that will be a raised median with a mountable curb. Obviously on this end, it varies in width. Like I said, I want to say that the minimum width is 4 feet. I believe on the other side, on the northbound entrance to the village, the entire island is 4 feet wide. Did
Okay,
that
and
answer your
that's just going to
question?
be like a cement hump or something like that?
Bruce, do you
So-
want to?
Yeah, that it's I think there's a similar type treatment, not quite the same, but as you go into Delaware, and the purpose of that is to cause the traffic to have to steer a little bit to the right, and in doing that, it's a traffic calming technique in order to slow the traffic down.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bruce, we have a couple questions here.
Okay.
Mr. Bill Hutchings is going to the podium.
I'm not hearing anything, Jeff. I don't know if anyone's speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can now, yes. Thank you.
My name is Bill Hutchings. I own various properties on 896, including in Center City, Kemblesville. And I'm curious when you are going to be sending out paperwork regarding construction easements and/or any land you might be taking. And I'm curious if that is predicated upon the surveying. I don't see a whole lot of surveying going on. And finally, what is your two other questions? Are you starting from the south and going north? Are you going from the north and going south? Are you starting from both directions and meeting in the middle? And if so, when does this construction start and when do you think it might end?
Okay. Let me see if I can capture them all. So as far as the right-of-way acquisition process, it'll be within the next couple months that the PENNDOT representatives will be contacting all the property owners that would be impacted by what's being proposed. With that contact, they'll talk about the acquisition process itself, what your rights are with regard to that, and also the proposed compensation for what is mostly sliver takes throughout this corridor. The construction is anticipated to begin in spring of 2024. While the design team will indeed come up with a staging plan, that plan is what is reasonable and proposed by the designer and then reviewed by the PENNDOT District 6 Operations Unit and approved. However, a contractor almost always, and in this project definitely has the opportunity to propose his or her own, and if reviewed by the Operations Unit and approved, that would be the what we call traffic control plan that would be implemented. We're still in the development of the design traffic control plan, so I can't I can't right now answer the question of, are we starting from the south, starting from the north, starting from the two ends and going to the middle? I can't answer that as of right now as to what's proposed. But even when I can answer that question, it will not be the definitive answer. I mean, it might be. If the contractor just takes it and run with it, then it will be the definitive answer. But if the contractor, for any part of it, decides that he or she can do it better, usually cheaper, but still, maintain the traffic as it needs to be, they can propose that, and it can be accepted. Possibly not the answer you wanted, but the answer that I can best give to you.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Also, I'm very impressed with your transcription software. It's very accurate. Thank you.
Okay. How about we'll go back to the list, and then Jeff, if there's anybody over Franklin Township, we'll go back to you. So, Louis, I think you were next.
I got a question about the proposed T at 896 in Appleton.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever consideration of a circle there instead of a T?
Yes, there was consideration of a roundabout there. That was actually the first thing we looked at. The area is so incredibly tight for the possibility of a roundabout. We even actually looked at a mini roundabout, and none of those would actually work in there. It would have required acquisitions to do that, and there are some historic homes in that area. So we needed to exhaust any other possibilities before we could consider that. And we found that the all-way stop, which could also be looked at as a three-way stop, does work. And therefore, that's the one that was accepted and moved forward with.
Okay, and was there any traffic study of the impact of a three-way stop? Has that been performed on the amount of vehicles that will now back up? Because most of the vehicle traffic is north-south on 896. And
Yes.
very little
Yes.
is going
Yes.
south on Appleton. So has a traffic study been performed to identify the number of cars that will back up?
Yeah, the possible queuing from that configuration was looked at specifically. Of concern voiced to PENNDOT was the potential negative impact to the school at Peacedale Road, and the analysis showed that there would not be a backup in that area, so that this three-way all-way stop would indeed function well in the off-peak and the peak. So yes, that was looked at.
And is that study available to the public?
That I have to take a look at. I don't know.
Because knowing what the backup is up on 896 in New London with a four-way stop there, I find it hard to believe that such a backup will not also occur at that T. So I'd like to see if that study is available for the public.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Bruce, we have a couple people here with questions.
Yep.
The first one's John Auerbach.
Yes, John Auerbach, a Franklin Township resident. I've been involved in roads in the township for about 10 years. Franklin Township's a rural township. We have quite a bit of farming activity. My question or a comment is related to the two traffic islands and how they would impact the movement of farm equipment. This issue came up recently in our comprehensive plan development. And we had one farmer on the plan, but a number of them had made comments that these islands, if not designed properly, will restrict the movement of their equipment. Typically, they're moving a combine without the blades on it, but it's a pretty wide piece, and there are other wider pieces. So the island, if it doesn't provide a reasonable shoulder on the side so that they can clear the center island, there's a problem. So that is the issue. And I'll send you some specific comments after I talk to some of the local guys and send it to you in writing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we have Mr. Galligan here.
Right, okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Dave Galligan, resident of Franklin Township, and I'm really here on behalf of some community members that couldn't come here. Many of their questions that they've given me have been answered. But I think one that they want to know is whom directly should they contact about any individual concerns they have regarding this project and their property? And when should they be concerned when they don't get a response back?
Person that they can communicate with is myself. My email address is c-bmasi, that's c-bmasi @pa.gov.
Okay. And then a second question is there a basic formula in terms of compensation for these slivers of land that are beginning to be used in the project?
That I would not be able to answer. My forte is not right of way. Considering how complicated most of what we do at PENNDOT is, I doubt it's a simple formula with regard to compensation, but part and parcel of the discussion, as I understand it, with the PENNDOT representatives is they will talk about the compensation, and I would imagine that the process through which that proposed compensation came up with can also be discussed. So that would, that could be discussed by the individual property owner to PENNDOT representatives themselves.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Sarah, I think you're next on the queue.
Hi, yeah, I just had a quick question about if there was any thought of putting a crosswalk across the Kimblesville Charter School to the other side. There, I know there's a median going in down a little bit, but I didn't know if a crosswalk was something that was thought about, if there is enough foot traffic. We live right back there, and we do see quite a few people that cross there to get to the restaurant on the other side, or come from the school and come to the park over there, or run across to go to the gas station. So I do see quite a few people crossing around that area. I just didn't know if that was a thought, or maybe it's not something that really would require one, but just wondering.
Actually, it's an excellent question, and one that was asked of the team earlier. You're talking about the area around McMaster's Boulevard at the school?
Yep, correct.
Yeah. That is what's known as a mid-block crossing, and those are not necessarily, how to word this, those are not necessarily what one would want to propose on a road such as 896 with the amount of traffic that's there, because part and parcel of what one does when one proposes a crosswalk is not only the ability to cross, but also kind of inferring that it's okay to cross there. And it was not judged that that was a good place to cross 896, and therefore a crosswalk was not incorporated into that area.
Okay.
Jeff, do you have anybody else on your end, or should I just stay with the list?
We've got, we have a gentleman here that's coming to the mic. Just
Okay, great.
give me a couple seconds.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Tom, excuse me a minute. My name is Joanne Sweeney. I cannot get my hand raised to show on my screen. So I just want to say I'd like to be in the queue for a question after everybody else is done.
Fair enough.
And this is Barb Mandich. I can't get my hand raised either, so put me in the queue.
Okay, I have done that.
All right, we have a gentleman here in front of the mic.
I just have a quick question. We've covered this before, but I'm going to the intersection of 896 and Appleton Road.
Okay.
And I want to just take from my own, have a little confusion here. The orange highlighted areas, what does that represent at that intersection?
That's the roadway shoulder.
That's the shoulder?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll come down 896 if you're going south, and there will be a stop sign there.
Correct.
And you'll have to stop and make a left-hand turn rather
That's
than
correct.
go straight as it is today.
That's correct.
Okay. And coming north, you'll be the same thing. You got a stop sign.
Yes, and then you'd make a right if you'd stay on 896.
So there'll be that right now with that big yellow sign there, and then in order to make a right-hand turn coming up Appleton Road to 896, it kind of goes around on a slope, an angle there, or a half circle, if you will. That goes away and it just becomes a stop sign. Would
Yes.
be in the general area, but just a little further up.
Yes.
Yes, and that existing grass island that's there is going to be taken out.
I misunderstood you. What?
The existing grass island that's in the middle of the intersection
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah.
You know, you're talking about the right turn from Appleton kind of being that separate little half circle lane. That island will be taken out.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Actually, Laura, did you ask your question already?
I actually had a second question.
Oh, okay. I'm
you
sorry.
mentioned,
That's why I see your name again. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned contractor for this job. Will it be a single contractor? Do you take bids on sections of road? How does that get accomplished?
In other words, is your question, will this 5-mile section be awarded to only one contractor?
Yes.
Yes, the answer to that is correct. And the only caveat I put to that is when I say one contractor, I mean one prime contractor.
Right.
He could have, or she could have a series of subcontractors
Right.
under them. But it would be one team. It would be
One
one
team.
team.
Okay.
Yeah, we
All
would
right.
not break this project up.
Okay,
into
all
several
right. That
contractors.
was basically trying to get an understanding of that. Thank you.
Understood. You're quite welcome. Lynn, you're next.
So my name is Bart Nave. That's my wife Lynn's account. So I apologize. I joined 20 minutes late, so I apologize for that. I'm a Franklin Township resident. I live at the intersection of 896 and Den Road. It's the Den Road closest to 841. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. And Bruce, I've been reaching out to you since May of 2021, and I haven't gotten a response. So I just want to make sure if you were getting my emails okay, because you and I had corresponded a pretty good bit up to about a year ago, and then everything kind of went dark.
My apologies for that. Yeah, if you have something else, why don't you send it to me, and let me make sure that I have it and I'm getting it, and then I can respond to you.
Okay,
if you want to ask me something here, you can, but that's,
So again, I apologize, but when are the people going to reach out to us for talking about compensation for the property being taken? When will that happen, Bruce?
Yep, no problem. That is scheduled to be in about a couple months from now.
Okay.
The PENNDOT right-of-way representatives, the right-of-way acquisition representatives will be contacting the folks along the corridor that from whom we would require some right-of-way. As I had mentioned earlier, I believe almost all of them are more or less sliver takes. Then when they contact these property owners, they'll describe the right-of-way process, your rights under it, and then the proposed compensation. And any questions you have concerning that, or anything that you feel should be included in that, you could have the conversation with the right-of-way negotiation representative at the time.
I don't want to make this all about me, but you can see where a big part of my property is going to be impacted, leading Den Road, because I think it's about a 4-foot cut you're going to make right there at the entrance of Den Road.
Right.
So, and maybe this is not the time, maybe you and I can take this offline, but you can see how much of my driveway there is affected. So I'm very curious about how we're going to be able to get in and out of the driveway to our garage while all that's happening. It seems like we're going to have to park in the yard for a period of weeks.
One of the things I had mentioned earlier is that put into the contract documents will be that all residences and all commercial interest access to their properties will have to be maintained throughout the entire construction duration. There are times on other projects where road widening needs to occur, and what they'll do is they'll put like a temporary gravel access way that joins with the existing driveway.
Right.
Even on properties where driveways would be relocated, that has to be staged in such a fashion where there's access to the property at all times. So that'll be part and parcel of what you can discuss with the right-of-way negotiator. However, you and I have been in contact, and I thought we had more or less addressed that. But again, you have any concerns, just please reach out to me.
Yeah, with the bottom, essentially the bottom of my driveway becoming 4 foot lower, it's gonna make that driveway a lot steeper than it is. And, you know, I'm trying to weigh the positives and negatives of, you know, the banks being sloped back on both sides of my driveway, which if it's going to be sloped instead of a retaining wall there, then it's going to likely, the whole project will likely take out 30 mature trees, and which, you know, I'm sad about that. So the only way to maybe prevent that is coming up with some retaining walls on either side of my driveway leading up to the, you know, to the garage, which again, that's another issue with drifting snow and maybe somebody falling off the wall. So I would love to be able to have that conversation with, I guess it's the negotiation team. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. This is going to impact me regardless. I just want to have that conversation sooner rather than later. So, okay. All right. So I'm going to reach out to you, just kind of forwarding you what I've sent over the past year, and then maybe we can get that dialogue going.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Bruce, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Bill?
Just coming off mute there. Hi, Bill Wall from London Britton Township. A couple of questions. Thanks for the informative presentation. You passed over Flint Hill Road intersection really quickly. Looking at the plan, it doesn't look like there's a lot planned there. Any of us listening to this call that knows that a rainy day like today puts that entire intersection underwater. Is there any plan there to improve drainage at that intersection? Because I'm going to bet the London Britton Township people are all probably virtually nodding. And the second part of my question was back to the Strickersville Road intersection. You talked about realignment to improve sight distances, but the turn from Strickersville Road on the west side, 896, is really bound by houses. What are you going to do there to improve what is a pretty dangerous intersection? Thanks for the opportunity to ask questions.
You're welcome.
Bruce, I can answer the drainage question.
Yes, please.
And actually, I don't have details handy about drainage improvements there. I know we're not taking anything away, but I will check to see if there's any type of improvement that we can make in that location. Are you seeing more flooding on a particular side, or is it the entire intersection?
You know, the best person to answer this question would be Joe, the roadmaster in London Britton Township. I will tell you, it will be knee deep this afternoon. That runs from north and south of the intersection, right through the middle of it. There is no good drainage there. That needs a serious look. But Joe, ask Joe, and he'll fill you in because he's out there in hip waders trying to solve that problem for PENNDOT all the time.
In the picture, it's the bottom right where the red line comes around. If there's a drain there, and guys are always digging out the drain.
On this corner?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Glenn, do you want to add anything to that? This is Eileen Parrish, and I'm listening. And
I was going to inform them of that, but thank you, Eileen.
yeah, okay, right. That's definitely a problem. They have to go out there in high boots and shovels on a regular basis. So thank you for that, Bill.
Okay. And then the other part of your question, Bill, about Strickersville and London Tract. What we're doing is a slight shift of the center line of the road as much as we can within the constraints of the buildings that are at this corner, which are very close to the road, to straighten it out, improve some sight distance, and just make as much of a smooth alignment through there as we possibly can.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Joanne, you had said you had attempted to raise your hand, but you couldn't, so you want to be in the queue. You're up next.
Yes, and I was going to say perfect timing because my question goes just a little south of here on South Bank Road and Chambers Rock Road. Now, I understand that you're putting in a left turn lane at Chambers Rock, certainly well needed because there's a tremendous amount of traffic that turns left there all day long. I'm on South Bank Road. My question is more, thanks for your informative presentation, by the way. I like how you explained about smoothing out 896 in various places where it's goes from a very high level to a very low level. And I guess that's part of my question. From South Bank Road, when you try to make a left-hand turn onto southbound 896, there is a rise between Chambers Rock and South Bank, which means that the northbound traffic on 896 is not visible literally until you see that first little yellow driveway just south of South Bank Road. That's where right there. That's about when you see the oncoming traffic. So if you're trying to make a left-hand turn, the road looks clear because you cannot see. There's no sight line. And then as the traffic crests that bump there or that rise there, that's when you have to make, a very quick exit of the, you start to pull out and then you realize you really need to floor it to get out into the road because there's somebody coming, usually at an excessive rate of speed, but that's another story, up over that rise. So I guess the question is, was there any thought given, or did I miss that you're actually smoothing that part out, or are you just adding in a left turn lane?
You probably didn't miss it because I don't believe I said it. But
Okay.
we are doing a similar lowering of that crest curve. I don't have a graphic, separate profile graphic of that on this plan.
Okay.
But yes, we are doing the same thing at that crest curve that's just south of South Bank Road.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Bruce, we have a resident here that would like to ask a question, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, back to the subject of drainage, here again at Appleton Road and 896. When it rains pretty good, most of the water, there are two drains on Appleton Road and it slopes around that little stone wall there that's in front of my house. Most of the rain seems to want to go through my driveway and around the backyard, and it's like it takes out all the topsoil. Well, you're looking at 896 and Appleton Road. I'd appreciate it. Maybe if we could do something there, maybe put some kind of a swale at my driveway or something so that I don't have to deal with lost topsoil.
Can you see the screen? Are you on this corner? The southwest-ish corner?
Yeah, that's my house right there. Again, the water flows north, and what it does, it comes down through the driveway and it goes around the back. I got a little sinkhole. When I bought the place, they put in a septic system. That's another story, but it doesn't seem to want to go in the direction that it's supposed to go. So in other words, every time we put new asphalt down on the road, it seems to want to come up about 2 or 3 inches. And the way that my neighbor's yard is sloped, everything comes down 896 and just flows right through there. So again, there's a lot of work going to be done on that intersection. And I'd appreciate it if you look into that because the water doesn't want to seem to go where it's supposed to.
Okay.
Okay. Barb, you were another one who wasn't able to get into the queue, so you're up next.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, Barb. I was calling for the next the next person in the queue. Barb, if you're still on. Okay. Matt, you're up next.
Hi, this is Kathy, Matt's wife, on his account.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks,
this.
Kathy.
I have a couple questions. So I'm a resident of Franklin Township, and we own the pasture on the northeast corner of Good Hope Road in 896. Just to give you guys a point of reference. Overall, will there be changes in the speed limits from start to finish throughout all this because of these improvements?
There will not be changes to the speed limits.
Anywhere, okay.
No.
And then I missed this when we were looking at the Appleton Road T. And there are no turning lanes projected there, particularly coming north on 896 at the T, where you can make a left onto Appleton Road or a right to continue on to 896. There's not enough room for that, right? There.
Correct. It'll be a single lane approach.
Well, and that's because it's a three-way stop sign.
Right.
So one wouldn't want to put a left-hand turn lane in a three-way stop sign because it would cause confusion and the possibility of two vehicles from one approach entering the intersection at the same time.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, that part. Yep. I'm just trying to think of things that were done to minimize the amount of standing traffic in the village.
Understood. Okay. Okay.
Hi, it's Barb Mandich here. Somehow I got muted. Concerned about the circle there at 896 and 841 and the speed limit approaching the circle. Because I've noticed the circles down in Maryland at Appleton Road and 273, people just fly through. So I would like to see the speed limit lowered going into the circle.
Is that circle like a really old one? It's been there for decades.
Yeah, they just put it in 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Because part of the design of a roundabout, which is what makes it different than a circle, is that the entrance is skewed a bit, which has a tendency to slow traffic down. But what you're saying is what they put in at the intersection you're talking about hasn't really seemed to have worked.
Well, first of all, I think they're a little small for the amount of truck traffic that goes on 273. But also, people just continue to drive too fast. And so, personally, I'd like to see a stop sign entering the circle from all directions.
The concept behind the roundabout is that
to keep traffic moving, right? But
right,
if they're just going to fly through it,
and yet to slow them down so they don't, and yet to slow them down so they don't fly through it. That's the point, and that's the purpose of them. And
they're using the circle that Barbara's mentioned is the cars are flying through that, and they're using your brick hatched areas, which is for trucks. They're using that as part of the circle.
I see.
So
I see.
They're cutting down the size of the circle they have to go around on.
And where is the circle again? I'm sorry, it's 273
and Appleton Road.
And Appleton. Okay.
Well, and they just don't slow down enough to let other cars enter. And so, as you're entering the circle, somebody comes so fast that it's really just hard.
Okay. Okay.
So I think, you need to slow the traffic from all directions entering the circle.
Okay.
Personally.
So noted. Thank you.
Susan Moon has been patient for a little while. Can we get her question?
Sure.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Back down to the southeast part of your plan at Strickersville and 896. Can you explain the reason why a four-way stop is not being utilized there or other traffic calming measures?
Tom, if memory serves correctly, I believe a four-way stop was looked at this, and this is something that I believe the operations unit was not in favor of, and I'm trying to remember why. So I can take a look at that. In fact, I have some notes about London Track and Stricklersville that I want to talk to the operations unit about. And one of the questions I will ask them is about an all-way stop there. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, all-way stop there, right.
Okay, I have one other question, which is about right-of-ways and required right-of-ways. What is the required right-of-way? Is that for this project?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the red dashed line hovering around the project?
You're talking about this particular graphic?
Yes.
I believe this graphic only has cut and fill lines, Tom, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. It has cut and fill lines. And the property that you're thinking about, this this cut line that's shown here is out of date. I apologize for that. There is no cut slope in that location.
Okay. All right, we're gonna need to talk. Thank you.
Okay, understood. Sarah, you're next.
Hi, good afternoon. I submitted a question, but I don't think I've really heard it answered as to where I live. So my question was about what is PENDOT going to be doing in order to have speed controls in place? And I heard you talk about traffic calming devices around Campbellsville, and you just heard comments from others about potential issues with the circle. So I'm in Franklin Township. I'm between Scotts Den Road and the other end of Den Road, which is right by a curve. And, you know, just in the last week or two, the road has been repaved and widened, and the traffic is just going faster than ever. And with the coming out of the stop signs down at 841, and there's spacing that it's really hard to get out of my driveway. But there's no way the cars are going 40 miles an hour. And I think the planned improvements to make the road less hilly with shaving the crest is a good thing. I think it will help with visibility, but I think it's also going to encourage people to travel faster on that stretch of road. So I was wondering if there is going to be anything done to help enforce the current speed limit that's there.
That is something I can put forward to the operations unit, who can be in contact with the state troopers with regard to that. That's a separate governmental entity than PENDOT. PENDOT doesn't enforce the speed limits. We set them, but we don't enforce them. So that would be a conversation we'd have to have with the state troopers with regard to that, which we can do. I made a note to have that.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. And if there's anything that could be done, like some of the measures that were employed on Route 41 with the dots for spacing and signs about aggressive driving, I think that could only be helpful for 896.
Okay, thank you. And we're just about up to the top of the hour. So Matt, you're the last question.
Oh, yeah, this is Kathy again. And
oh, I'm
I was
sorry. My apologies.
That's all right. I was interrupted. and it's Zoom life, so I'm not offended. I get it. The last question that I had was coming southbound on 896, when the school traffic is in effect, the 15 mile per hour, what kind of studies have been done about standing traffic coming that direction to the T? Just thinking of the perfect storm. It's a Friday afternoon. People are starting to move down to the beach. It's 3 o'clock dismissal. Just wondering what kind of thinking went into that.
So your question is the concern about traffic queuing from the intersection of Appleton in a southbound direction back to the school?
Yes.
Okay. I had mentioned earlier that there had been a study about queuing at the always stop sign. Specifically, concern was expressed by the township about its effect on the school at Peacedale. And that analysis showed that there would not be a queuing problem. There was also a request that study be made public, which I have to inquire about because I don't know. There's certain information that's developed that is shareable, and there are others for legal reasons that are not. So I have to inquire whether that can be shared. But according to my recollection of the findings of the study, is that was not anticipated to be a problem. That being said, you however raised the issue that it's a Friday afternoon and people are heading down down to the shore. That would be probably a different situation that was analyzed in this study.
Okay, thank you. That was my last question. Thank you for letting me ask.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we're at the top of the hour, Jeff. So I thank everybody for the input they've had today, for the information you've shared, for us to have the ability to share what we're proposing with you. And Tom and I have some homework to do. So I thank you for providing the local insight that you guys have for this area.
Thank you, Bruce, very much, and I hope we can do it again. And I would just encourage PENDOT, if there's anything that would be helpful for the residents that we can post on our website, I'd like to create a page so they can go to that area and look and kind of build a filing cabinet there for them.
Okay. Again, thanks everybody, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.